Okay, so we're COMP2068. It's week 1, lesson 1, part 4. And we're talking about, now we're going to talk about our environment a little bit. So I've talked about, just a recap, JavaScript, right? We've talked about where I'm going to use Visual Studio 2013. And let's say you don't have Visual Studio 2013, and you don't want to use the school's computer, but you want to kind of load it up on your machine. Well, if every one of you should have a DreamSpark account, right? That's free with Georgia. And you can download Visual Studio 2013 here. My recommendation is you go down and download the ultimate version. So if I click on this thing, if it'll actually let me go, yeah. There's a bunch, and you go down to the ultimate version, and it's a 32-bit version of Visual Studio 2013 with Update 3, yes. They added new stuff to 2013. That's why I recommend, I'm saying, creating your own environment and getting your new one. There's also some stuff for Visual Studio 2015 preview, right? I don't recommend you use that. Not 2015 preview. What was that? It's not stable yet? It's stable. The challenge is that some of the stuff we do here in 2013, because some of you guys are using these computers here, and then if you're doing stuff with 2015, the TypeScript. Sorry? Oh, no. Oh, yeah, I got it. The TypeScript that works with 2015 is a little different than the TypeScript that works with 2013. And you're going to have that incompatibility issue when it comes to sharing stuff with other people. So I don't recommend you going with 2015 for now, right? Maybe in the future iteration of this course, we'll move to 2015 because then it'll be a stable version. All right, so, but it does exist today. If you want to download Visual Studio 2015, you certainly can. I'm not going to stop you because, as I said before, I'm not going to tell you what IDE to use. I'm going to recommend, highly recommend certain things. And I'm going to try and steer you away from pitfalls. That's my job, to make sure that you're successful, right? But I can't tell you that, hey, you know what, Visual Studio 2013 is the be-all and end-all to creating, JavaScript HTML5 game. No, I'm not going to tell you that, right? So let's talk about the IDE choices and why I chose Visual Studio. So here I am, I'm in my virtual machine, and I'm using Visual Studio, and it has something called Visual Studio Web Essentials into it with Update 3. And you can find this if you don't have Web Essentials loaded into your machine. And if you want to use Visual Studio 2012 and you don't want to go to 2013, you can download Visual Studio Web Essentials. It's a free download here at this link, vswebessentials.com, right? And you can add it into your Visual Studio. Some people have tried to do it here physically in school. And the problem with that is that the machines, when you reboot, they go back to what they were, right? And it's about a 700 meg download. So it takes quite a bit of time for you to do this kind of stuff. So I don't recommend that you do it. But one of the things that it comes with is, for HTML5, it comes with something called Zen coding. So if you're doing HTML5, and if you're familiar with something called Emmet, right? It's kind of like a shortcut to writing HTML5. So this is one of the reasons why I want to use it. And we'll talk about HTML5 and Zen coding in a second because you need that. And the other piece is this whole link with JavaScript and TypeScript in general. It gives you additional IntelliSense for JavaScript that Visual Studio on its own does not, right? So I recommend, again, using Visual Studio with Visual Studio Web Essentials as we do this course. So let's try open up a project. Why don't you join me now instead of, falling asleep? I've talked enough. If you've got Visual Studio 2013 in front of you, you want to check it out, join me on Visual Studio 2013, and let's try to create an example project together. So what I'm going to first do is, when you enter Visual Studio, I'm just going to relaunch it for myself. So here's 2013. And by the way, if you notice on the bottom of my screen here, I got 2012, I got 2013, and I got 2015 over here, right? So I've got them all in there, and that's why I'm telling you I've tried Visual Studio 2015. I like it. There's some really cool features, but I don't recommend it from a backwards compatibility at this stage, this point right now. I think in 6 months it'd be great. It's on there, man. You can download it now if you want. So here we're in Ultimate. I'm using Ultimate, right? And this is another thing. I think the machine in front of you, if you didn't want to use your laptop, has Professional, right? Which is an issue because it won't give you the same options that I have as well. So I'm going to go to New Project, And then from there, again, I'm going to choose on the Visual Studio C# side, right? I'm going to choose a web. You can choose whether it's Visual Studio C# or if you want to choose a Visual VB or whatever you want to do. I'm just C#. This is where mine opens up from a developer perspective. And I go to web, and I'm going to choose ASP.NET Web Application. All right, so I'm going to create my first web application, which is going to be called COMP2068, and I'll call it Lesson 1, right? Now where it's going into, I'm going to just go into a different, I'm going to redirect myself into the right courses, because I do a bunch of courses, right? It's going to go into Advanced Web, and I'm going to go into, I'm going to go and create a folder. So I'm going to go New Folder. I'm going to call it Code Archive. Here I'm in this Code Archive. And this is where I'm going to put my, I'm going to direct this particular lesson, right? So again, it shows my local files, courses, COMP2068. It's going to be different for you, and Code Archive. If you notice, before I go here, I haven't moved on, right? The reasons why this is happening. Right now, if you notice, there's a couple of options down here. Create directory for solution. The other one is create new Git repository. And this is why I asked you to sign up for Git, because we're going to do that right now, right? If I click on there and press OK.
I don't have that. I have add source control.
That's right, because you haven't done Git yet. If you haven't done it before, it'll say add source control, and it'll direct you to either Team or Git, one of the two. And if you don't have Visual Studio 2013 with Web Essentials, the latest version, Update 3, it may not give you that option either. All right, so let's just continue. It takes me to this empty screen, right, as an example. I don't want you to choose anything else, like no web forms or MVC or Web API or any of this stuff. You don't need any of this stuff. This is for other types of applications. We just need you to create an empty web application and press OK. When you do this, it comes up with a blank editor window, as well as a Solution Explorer window on the right-hand side that has your solution, which is COMP2068-Lesson 1, as well as the only project that's in the solution, which is the same name, COMP2068-Lesson 01, right? That's what you have in here. So really, it's a blank project. I want to add it, even though I've added it to source control, I want to connect this to GitHub. How do I do that? I got to go to Team Explorer, and in there, I got to go to Unsync Commits. And if you notice, it's asking for a URL of my repository. Right? Again, if you can't follow along, or if I'm going too fast, don't worry about it. You can look at the video that's going to be online a day or so from now, right? Well, I got to go back onto GitHub, so I know I have a GitHub account, right? And I'm going to go into create new repository, right? This is it. Create a new repository happens at the top right corner of your screen here. So if I go to myself. On the top right, you have this plus button where you can create new repository. New repository. And when you do that, I'm going to create one that looks like the name that I'm calling my solution for today, which is if I can type, COMP2068, right? And it's Lesson 1, right? Now you can call yours whatever you like. This is my repository for my demo. So I'm going to create my repository. And it gives me this link, right? This is the link that you need to put into Visual Studio 2013, right here. Let me know when you're with me. It's okay. Again, you can do this tutorial at home if you look at the videos. But I'll pause here for you guys to catch up a little bit for those of you. Yeah.
And I said add.
No, I didn't ask you to do that. Right? I'll go over it with you, and I'll take a short break after this, and then we'll go over it together. Yeah. Okay. Don't worry about it, because I'm also going to give you another way of using Git, not just with through Visual Studio. Right? Okay. So we got this link. I've got to this point. I've created my own new repo. I'm going to take this link, copy it. I'm going to go back to Visual Studio. Sorry. I'm going to go back to Visual Studio, and here under my Team Explorer, where I said unsync commits, it's going to ask me to publish to remote repository, and I'm going to copy the link in there. And when I do that, I'm going to press publish. If everything goes well and I'm connected to the internet, bing, bing, bang, I'm connected, and it creates my repository. When I go back to GitHub and refresh, there it is. I've got my first commit, and I got my repository created. So what if, as an example, I don't want to use Visual Studio, but I want to use some kind of version control outside of Visual Studio? Well, even if for GitHub, if I go back to Git, actually what I'll do is I'll go incognito, right? By clicking on my little hamburger up here. And when I go incognito, it won't sign in as me. And when you go to sign in for the first time, on the bottom, if you scroll all the way down, right, you can download GitHub for Windows or GitHub for Mac or Linux. And when you download this, it gives you a little application that you can use for Windows, right? I've already done this. It looks like this. When it comes up, here it is. And what this thing does is it kind of loads up all my repositories where I can kind of sync manually with GitHub as opposed to syncing automatically, right? So if I want to do my own GitHub syncing and everything else, I can use my little tool, my app for Windows or for Mac, right, as opposed to doing things within Visual Studio. Or let's say you don't want to use Visual Studio, but you want to use GitHub. Well, these two tools work together, right? You download your little app for Windows, you create your repository locally on the machine, and then you use your environment. And let's say you want to use Aptana or something else, you can use two tools to connect to GitHub as opposed to just using Visual Studio. All right, so this is another way of doing it. But for me, so that's one of the reasons. One of the reasons is I'm connecting automatically. I connect automatically with GitHub when I do my updates here in Visual Studio. Okay. Let us go back to Solution Explorer now, right, and add a couple of things. So I'm here in Visual Studio, and I'm on the Solution Explorer side, if you notice on the right-hand side here. And what I want to do here on this side is I want to add in some files. I got nothing up there on GitHub now. All it is just a framework, right? So I'm going to right-click on my project window, right? So here's my project for Visual Studio. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to go Add, and I'm going to go HTML page, right? Right-click, Add HTML page. And when I do that, I'm going to rename this thing Index, right? And it's going to create a kind of a blank page for me. Again, I went to the project, I right-click on the actual project header, I clicked Add, and then I went to HTML page. That's what I did. Now, again, some of my choices might be different than yours if you don't have Visual Studio 2013 with Update 3 and with Visual Studio Web Essentials built in. Okay? So there it is. This is what I get. I get this index.html file. It's a blank stub with not much in there. Are you guys with me up to this point? Okay. We'll talk about that later. I'll take a break. I'll take a pause, and I'll come around and I'll help you with GitHub. Okay? Okay, so here it is. I've got my page, and I don't need this header here, this XMLNS, because I'm doing HTML5. I don't need this. I do need a lang, though. I'm typing lang, right, is equal to English. That definitely I need, right? I also need a couple of meta tags in my header, right, when I'm doing HTML5. And one of them that I need is meta character set is equal to UTF-8, right? So you should have that meta tag inside your HTML document. And then the next one I need, if you've done that one, is, if I can actually type, meta, instead of character set, I'm going to go name is equal to viewport, right? And content, I want to make sure that if I use a mobile device, that my content has an initial scale of 1. So that's what I'm kind of putting in there to this one. So those are the two meta tags I would recommend that you put into your file. Okay?
You don't really have to do anything with all the fruits, everything.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It's so, I'm so happy with it.
Right. And then the next piece is I want to put in my intro. So I'll say COMP2068 lesson 1, if I can type, as my title, which is cool. Okay, so this is cool. I'm going to save this, and this blank little file, I'm going to upload this to GitHub, right? And then I'm going to take a bit of a break and come around and can make sure you guys can all connect. All right? So I'm going to go to Team Explorer now with GitHub after I've got this file, and I'm going to go to Home, and I'm going to say Changes. And under Changes, it says, here's all the included changes, and here's some untracked files and excluded changes. Sometimes they have those too. Right now I have none, so they're all included. And I have to enter a commit statement. A commit statement is like saying, here's my snapshot. I'm going to name my snapshot that I'm going to pull up to GitHub. I'm going to name my snapshot. And I'm going to name this thing, created first HTML page.
Also, that keeps track of time as to when.
It's a snapshot. So it's a name for the snapshot for GitHub. And then I'm going to click commit, right? I'll make sure I save things properly. So now I have my first commit, but it has not been synced with GitHub. I've created my commit, and from a local repository perspective, we're good. Locally, I've got my commit saved. I got to sync it with GitHub, though. So I got to go back to Home, I got to go back to Unsync Commits, and I've got to click Sync. And when I do that, it syncs it up with GitHub. And when I go back to GitHub, and I go back into my repositories now, here's my latest one, right? If you notice, all this stuff is there now. Here's COMP2068 lesson 1, and hey, look, there's index.html. And if I go in there, I can actually see it live on GitHub. So if you want to follow along with me, all my code is going to be up on GitHub. It's live right here. This is exactly what I put up here on my version of Visual Studio 2013. So not because I want to create more videos today, but because I want to take a break and come around to talk to you guys and make sure you can connect to GitHub, I'm going to take a pause with the video, and then I'll create another one. All right, so let's pause it there.